Hey guys, sorry, I know the light's really bad. I apologize. My brother's sitting here with me as we're doing a lot of planning and getting stuff situated, but I wanted you to be able to do the foldable. So it's one of the things you're going to do to help take notes over poetry. And obviously, we'll have a short poetry assessment. So I want you'll be able to use it on your test. So I wanted you to take some notes over the terms of poetry. These are the kinds of terms that are going to be helpful for you. Again, we always talk about AP Lit, we talk about PSAT, SAT, ACT. This is the kind of English specific academic vocabulary that it's really important that you have a handle on when you're taking those exams. So, we're going to do just a super fun note taking strategy to help you embed those terms into your consciousness. And then those are going to be terms you're going to be using for the next few weeks as we do poetry. Okay. So, maybe it's been a while since you made a foldable. So we're going to make something that looks like this. It's pretty easy, not going to lie, but I wanted to work you through how to fold the paper because sometimes it's tricky to figure out how in the world to fold the paper. All right. So you're going to have two pieces of paper, two independent sheets of paper. And if you're in my classroom, there's a ton of paper in the closet. I told Mallory to get it out for you, but just in case it's not, there's lots of paper you can use and you have access to. All right. So, what you're going to do is just, guys, I mean, it's not rocket science. You're going to kind of eyeball it. So, you're going to figure out like this one piece of paper, you kind of need to fold maybe like 3/4 of the way down. And then the other piece of paper, you're only folding like a quarter of the way down, if that makes any sense, if we're looking proportionally, or maybe a third and 2/3 is kind of more what you're thinking. But in essence, you're going to fold this one and make a flap. And then you're going to fold this one so that this will fit inside the flap like this. And then you end up with this foldable. If you're in my classroom, you can use the stapler. Please make sure you sanitize your hands before you use it and staple two little staples at the top so that you have this foldable that you can write on a note take with. If you are at home, you can use your own stapler and you can staple at the top as well. All right. And then what you're going to do for me, you can see this has the terms on it. So on the top, you're going to put the term form, sound devices, figurative language, and then imagery. And those terms will coincide with the slides that you're going to be looking at throughout the slide deck. Okay. So when you're taking notes on your foldable, it's easiest if you write like form right here and then your form notes go up here. Or they can go on here too. Sound devices, your notes can go up here. Figurative language, your notes can go up here. And then imagery, your notes can go right here. But however you want to take the notes that's best for you. Give yourself some space that you like take the notes, but then if you wanted, you could always go back and add examples. So, for example, you're going to read a poem called The Bells by Edgar Allan Poe. It's fantastic. And you're going to listen to that poem and you're going to do a specific activity with it called TP Cast. TP Cast is another strategy that I really want you to have. It is more for the analysis part of poetry. You know, the other day, all the videos and stuff talked about how I want you to enjoy poetry. Well, I do, but I also want you to be able to analyze it. So it's going to work more on that analysis part of it. So you'll see the TP Cast slide. And the TP Cast slide is going to work you through. Actually, I don't know. I'm already talking to you. Let me just show you the TP Cast slide so we can talk about it. So here is, whoops, give me just a second so I can see my poetry slides. There's my soundtrack, right, guys? Okay. So here are all the poetry slides, and these are all the notes that you're going to jot down in your foldable. Okay. Then you're going to do this TP Cast activity that's going to be in the module. So TP Cast is just a strategy for poetry analysis. That's all that it is. So the very first thing you do when you look at a poem is you look at the title of the poem and try to figure out based on the title what the poem is going to be about. So you're just making a prediction. All right. So if the poem is called The Bells, you might assume it's going to be about bells. Who knows? Now, you know, with poetry, sometimes titles can be deceptive. It'll be like Miracle on 34th Street. And you're like, I don't even know what that's a reference to. And it's about like the holidays and Santa Claus, but who knew because that didn't make sense to you. That's all right. You're just indicating that you know the title and that you have thought about the title. Okay. Then you're going to paraphrase. If you had to tell me what this poem is about in your own words, how would you paraphrase it? Sometimes you have to read a poem 2 or 3 times to get the intent and meaning out of the poem. So feel free to wait and paraphrase once you feel like you have a clear sense of what the poem's about. Connotation. Are there words in the poem that feel a certain way rather than mean a certain thing? So when we talk about denotation and connotation, the word bad in slang terms can mean cool and awesome, but the word bad really means something super terrible and horrible, right? So, like, connotative meanings of words when you're looking at the poem, is there anything to that end that you want to look at? Attitude, what is the attitude? We talked about that a little bit the other day. What is the writer bringing to the table? What's the attitude of the poem? Is there a shift in the poem? So we'll talk about this a little bit more, but often poems, somewhere in the last stanza or toward the end of the poem or in a sonnet, it's usually right around between lines, 8 and 9 or around line 10, there's a shift that happens. And so, can you find a shift? Are there any shifts in the poem? Slide back to the title, revisit it. And when you go back to the title, you're like, oh, I have this new meaning. Like, what does the title mean now that it didn't mean before when you started reading? And then we've talked a ton about theme. What is the theme of the poem? What do you think? What lesson or moral, or what is the writer trying to get you to think about? Okay. I'll see if I can find a good TP cast video, sort of like TP cast explained, so that you can practice that. But I'm going to have you work through you're going to go through these steps of TP cast with the bells and see what you can get out of it. Okay. All right, cool guys. If you've been fantastic, but if you have any questions, let me know. Again, use your paper, use your markers, use whatever tools you have to make a super fun foldable. Again, it's just a nice way for you to kinesthetically hold on to the poetry terms, because there's something that you're going to want to revisit over and over again over the course of the next few years. Okay. All right, guys. If you need anything, feel free to email. Otherwise, I'll touch base with you soon.